Hey, what's up, nerds? It is Paul at Radio Free Hammer Hall. And today I want to talk a bit about my approach to reviewing battle tomes, units, war scrolls, all of the other various things in Age of Sigmar. I have noticed that there are some pretty consistent elements that other folks do when doing these sorts of review videos, and it's certainly something I have done in the past as well. And I just kind of want to avoid some of these things and kind of have a bit of a change of focus on how I want to approach things and talk about things. Um, the basic thing that I really want to focus on is simply what things do, which I know that sounds incredibly basic. But when I get a bit more into the details, I think you'll understand what I mean. So, number one, um, comparing something to the previous battle tome or the previous version of something, whatever that thing happens to be. Uh, when there's a new release, there's usually a lot of talk about what's different, right? And a lot of players are just picking up an army for the first time. So when we talk about what something used to do, it's not that helpful because it can be really confusing to a lot of those new players, and they get like these two different things in their head, and you're trying to convey to them what something does, but you get fixated on what it used to be. So I think even sometimes folks will just breeze over what the thing actually does and just focus on the change. And that really, I think, loses a lot of people. And it kind of, I think, misses the point of what I want to be talking about. Um, it also can have some bias issues, anchoring and such. Um, so I think in general, I think it's good to look at something new with fresh eyes as if it is a brand new release, brand new army, whatever, as if the thing didn't previously exist at all. Like, and just look at what does it currently do. And I think that is just more helpful and more interesting to people. Um, you know, it's it's certainly not that there's not an audience for talking about what's different. There's certainly a ton of people out there that do that, but I think there's not enough focus on just the thing itself rather than the story of the change. That I think it's just kind of where I want to focus. Number two, talking about what is good or bad. Again, it sounds I don't know. Like a lot of people are going to be coming to us to look for our advice on what's good or bad. Um, and competitive play, it really only represents a fairly small slice of Age of Sigmar players. So emphasizing good versus bad, it's going to be mostly oriented towards people that are just mostly looking at like winning, right? Um, creating those more optimized lists. But there are a ton of players out there who are playing with the things they like or just the things they have because they have a limited collection. And so just saying that something is bad and moving on, I think does a disservice to the people that are looking at their collection and saying, what do I do with this? A new book came out. I have this 2,000 points of models. Um, how do I use it? And the answer some people are giving, and I'm guilty of this, just looking at it and saying, that's bad. Next. Well, if that's like 20% of somebody's entire Warhammer collection, what are they supposed to do? So I think the solution is to really focus in on how units, war scrolls, whatever, are used, how they fit into an army, and what sort of role that they play. So we can um, really explore things and talk about all of the different ways that things can be used, whether or not it's good or bad. And that conversation of what something's power level is, like how much damage output does it do, what are the pros and cons of something, like that's a bit different than just saying something is something good or bad. Because there are lots of things out there that you might think are kind of crappy, that on just a cold read of it, that you throw it into context to something and it's like, yeah, I guess I will use that. Like, I do have a use for that. It comes in for some reason. So and sometimes that reason is just like, I like the model. um and as an aside to this, I think the rules writers for Age of Sigmar have actually been doing a good job of finding roles for all of the different war scrolls and different models in units that we have available to us. Um, it, I think, maybe in the past there were things that were a little bit more of like, oh, this is trash. I don't even know what to do with this. This is bad at any price, kind of thing. Um, but I think we've gone more now in the direction of like what Mark Rosewater, obligatory Magic reference, has said many times when people ask him, like, why do you make bad cards? Like, why would you bother making bad Magic cards? It just seems like a waste, right? The answer is, not every card is made for you. Not every War Scroll is for you. Not every model is for you. It seems as though they are actually designing pretty well into, like maybe this thing is not good competitively, but it has a role, it has a function, right? Like, if you like this model, you can do something with it. Just as an example off the top of my head, do I have him like right here? Yeah, I do. This guy, the Ogroid Myrmidon. Now, super cool model. You know, War Scroll, not that exciting, but what does he do in the context of the game? If you make him your general, then your Theridons become battle line. Okay, and now you have this enabling of this thematic unit going on, this kind of thematic army. And, it's cool, it's different, it's something that you can do with it. It doesn't mean that it has to be good. Does it have to go out there and win GTs? No, it doesn't. We just talk about what it does. What is its role? It has a purpose to somebody. Who is it for? What is it for? Okay. Point the third. Points. So I think talking about points in a very granular way is often not that helpful. Number one, we are now on a quarterly point update cycle. So points change. At most, that a comment that you make publicly about the points of something are going to be good for 3 months at the most. That's like your guarantee. These things can change very quickly, very easily. If something is not pointed appropriately, then it's gonna get changed more than likely. So the other thing in here too is that even with points changes, a lot of times it's not really moving it in a way that's significant enough, I think, that it's gonna really hit like non-competitive players all that hard. And a lot of players are not, as I discussed in the video about that whole, like, is Age of Sigmar a good game thing, a lot of players are just not even aware of these points updates. Like, how many players buy like play the game. They buy their battle tome, and like they don't know what's in the general's handbook. They never bought it. They know what the points are in the back of their book, and that's it. And maybe they'll be confused if they open up the app and see that it's a different and don't understand why. Oh, maybe this stupid app is just wrong. You know, so um, I think talking about like the ballpark that points are in is useful, to just kind of say like, hey, like this unit is really inexpensive, or hey, it's Nagash, he's half your army. That's, I think, a good way to be talking about this stuff. Um, if you're looking at a unit and saying like, oh, like this unit, it's pretty good, but it'll be a lot better if it was down 20 points, and since it's not that good of efficient right now, like guys, it like that's not helpful to a lot of people. And I don't think that many people are really thinking that way. Um, so I think it's more of like kind of almost like thinking of it as like a class, like a point class, that something is in, and how it fits into an army. Um, Number four, discussing how things work and stack up in the current General's Handbook Battle Pack. Um, and this goes right along with points. This changes all the time. This is now on a 6-month cycle. Who knows what it's going to be in the future? But battle plans and battle packs are changing constantly for competitive play. Not everybody is really even looking at what's going on competitively, or is using that most recent General's Handbook. And again, as an aside to that, uh, we all have this kind of fixation on like we have to use the most recent General's Handbook, and that's really just not necessary at all. You can go back and play battle plans from any old General's Handbook or supplement or whatever, and they all still work just fine. Um, so I don't think we really need to be that focused on that. Now, if you want to talk about something specifically in that context, like, oh, like how do we make this work for a GT that I'm going to tomorrow? Yes. But a new book comes out, well, I mean, like I am recording this at the end of April. We know we're probably going to be getting a new General's Handbook end of June, beginning of July. So that means we've got 2 months until the Earth shifts like under the meta of that stuff. So like, why am I gonna comment on like get like really hinge something being good or bad on how does it function in like the current battle pack, um, when you know it, people are going to be looking at this, a year from now and saying like maybe they picked up an army and they want to see what it does, um, and we're talking about like an old battle pack that they've never even heard of. So I think for them it's not, again, just that useful. I think talking about things in more general terms about what does just the thing itself do, and then then give it context later on in talking specifically about that maybe. Um, and the last one, from me anyway, talking about the latest and greatest and hottest things. Um, we are currently in a phase with Age of Sigmar of like rapid releases. We're getting like new books every few weeks now, and I know there's content creators that are just having trouble keeping up with it, and it's not the direction that I really want to go in. And this is really what I've always done. This is just kind of continuing on the path. Um, Really just digging into the armies that I am playing and the armies that I think are interesting, even if I don't own them. Um, and for myself as well, like like it doesn't matter how old a book is. It's like somebody could just be picking it up at any time, so it doesn't matter when you're doing it. Like for the YouTube algorithm, it's great to do something right when it's released, but it doesn't really matter in the broader scheme of things. Um, so I think my focus is really just going to be more on what I'm interested in, which is really very much what my channel has pretty much always been. Anytime I've really tried to stray outside of that, it really just, in my opinion anyway, hasn't really gone well. I haven't been really comfortable with it. So, yeah, I think to just really sum things up here, I want to talk about what things do, what it does here and now, the words on the page, not what it used to do, not what it does in the current battle pack, not how it is in relation to some fine-tune points adjustment, or anything like that. I just, and I don't really want to talk too much about how good or bad something is, right? Like we can compare two things and say this is better at X. Um, but there are not many things left in Age of Sigmar where it just comes down to you are better at breathing than another War Scroll is, and that. So I think focusing more on how to use something is just a better way to look at it for me. So that's it, guys. I've got a whole bunch of other stuff in the pipeline. So, yeah, it's just sort of a little preview of how I'm thinking about stuff these days. And that's it. I'll talk to you guys later.